Hello, friend. In this episode, I'm going to discuss the idea of a terminal diagnosis, as well as begin to give understandings so that we can shift what's going on in our consciousness, and by extension, our body and health and experience. So first off, I'm not a doctor. My value comes in self-development, spiritual development. We can also say psychic development, which is learning to communicate to your higher self, Holy Spirit. I use mine more in a religious kind of spiritual manner. However, if that doesn't resonate with you, don't turn off just yet, because that's not important. That's not what's important. So for those of you that have received a terminal diagnosis, I'm assuming that you are going the Western medical direction, because from my understanding, that's the only modality that's able to offer such a diagnosis. And the value of what I have to offer is it's inconsiderate of those things. Meaning, my approach, my understandings, my development doesn't need to understand any of those sort of things in order to be of benefit. It's inconsiderate. So what Spirit is saying to me in this moment is, that's science. That's the modality of science. Thank you, Spirit. They're reminding me now. Prior to recording this episode, things were coming through. And this is one thing that came through. The modality that offered the diagnosis of being terminal is the modality of science. We're going to now move into the modality of miracles. The divine mind, using applied consciousness in the manner that benefits and promotes our wellness, our healing, our betterment, our empowerment, our independence, our God-given attributes. Now, if you don't believe in God, stick with me, because that's not as important as just practicing these ideas, because these are practical, these are applicable. Okay? What I mean by miracle mindedness is when you have done enough self-introspection, self-examination, and you begin to understand the mind at a substantial enough extent, you see how the mind plays a role in our creation, in our experience. It's actually undeniable. It's actually in perfect relation, meaning if you think a sad thought, you will create sadness 100% of the time. If you think a happy thought, you will create happiness 100% of the time. There's no accidents in creation. And your mind is a creator. And if you had the ability, now this is what I teach. Some people disagree with this. You're allowed to disagree with it, but if you examine it thoroughly enough, I suggest that it will be validated. My phone just said 444. What numbers like that in alignment mean is a validation of what was just held in mind. So what I just said. If you examine this thoroughly enough, you'll see it be validated. Thought precedes creation. So, it's impossible to think a sad thought and create happiness. It's impossible to think a happy thought and create sadness. now let's use this for the purposes of healing. It's impossible to think a thought of sickness and create wellness. It's impossible to think a thought of wellness and create sickness. Did you know that you can change your mind about your thoughts? Meaning, if you think if you think a sad thought, I'm going to leave that in there because I thought that was humorous. We need some levity. We need some levity in this topic, right? It's not meant to be tense. Tense is so serious. It's so that the analytical, logical mind is so serious and tense. We're moving out of that now. We're moving into our divine mind, into our miracle mind, all right? Into the levity, into the joy. This is what, in the love, in the faith, in the conviction, this is what is going to heal us, all right? Notice how we've been denying that to an extent. We've been resisting that to an extent. We've been so serious. We've been so logical. We've been putting the brakes on faith. We've been investing in logic rather than faith, all right? We've been investing in diagnosis rather than where we're actually intending to go, which is wellness. Keep your eye on the prize of wellness. So now we're stepping into this miracle mind, into this divine mind. And one of the first things I'm going to ask you to do is to, unless you're talking to your doctor in the moment or somebody that it really matters to in that moment, begin to deny your diagnosis. Every time it comes to you in mind that you have any diagnosis, Spirit's reminding me of the practice which I teach called negate and replace, meaning you deny that agreement. You disagree with that thought. You disagree with that diagnosis, and now you replace it with the new thought. Then you bring the miracle mind in, the divine mind in, and you apply a thought of wellness. Visualize yourself doing what you'd be doing when you're healed. You don't visualize yourself saying, I will be healed, putting it out into some future existence. You are healed right now in this moment and affirm it. Okay? Now, if you get evidence that's contrary to that, just keep reaffirming it in your mind. Do not allow the mind to go back and hook onto, say, symptoms or ideas or thoughts that are affirming the illness, because that's what we're trying to negate. Remember, a sad thought will create sickness. A sad thought will create sadness. A sick thought will create sickness. We have to be deliberate in our mind. This is where we have to take accountability for our experience. We have to take ownership. No victim mentality allowed. The victims are the ones that suffer. The victims are the ones that deny this miracle. The miracles are natural, by the way. Don't wonder if you're worthy of a miracle. You're worthy of that miracle. You are that miracle. This energy is coming through you by you aligning with it. You are that miracle. We're now just choosing to align our minds with it, because our mind, when it isn't right, is actually what resists it. In religion, it is considered sin. It's the resistance of God's grace. It's the resistance of this abundant energy that nurtures us when we have our mind in alignment with it. So, negate all negative thoughts about the illness. Negate the diagnosis. Affirm only wellness. Meaning, so if a person has cancer, for example, your affirmation is not going to be, I no longer have cancer. We don't even want to mention cancer in the affirmation, because the consciousness is affirming it in a respect there. I am completely well. My body supports me. My body is divine. Divinity is immune. Divinity is whole. Divinity is wellness. You can picture your body like little all of the cells in your body like little smiley faces, that when you give them that attention and you see them as this wellness and this projection from your mind onto them as them being well and joyful and happy and healthy, they're like receiving that and they're giving it back to you. They're like celebrating it. So it's like a cycle that goes back and forth. So you give it to them and they give you this excitement and reception back saying thank you. And it goes back and back. Play with that. What you're doing is you're creating a mental momentum. And this mental momentum, so this is important because when you first get into this work, you're likely going to start at a place that lacks the belief. And this is the power of affirmation. So if, say, you have a terminal diagnosis, and now you're trying to change your belief system because it's your belief system that's actually playing these things out and responsible for creating your manifestation. But when you first begin to apply these new affirmations, you're coming from a place of not believing them. So you might say these new affirmations and not believe in them at all at first, but maintain it. Maintain these new affirmations. And what you'll see is gradually you start to accept them a little bit. And then you accept them a little bit more. And all of a sudden it's starting to feel natural. And now you're creating this momentum. And understand, before you were doing that towards wellness, you were doing that in the opposite direction towards illness. So we have to get this on track. This is the mental momentum that Spirit talks about when we're doing this manifestation, when we're doing this creation. It's Spirit saying, the example is a panic attack. If you've ever had a panic attack, if you think one anxious thought, you won't create a panic attack. But if you think an anxious thought, after an anxious thought, after an anxious thought, after an anxious thought, after an anxious thought, you're creating that momentum, and the energy is building more and more dense to the point where all of a sudden you can't not have a panic attack because you've created so much mental momentum. Understand, we're doing this with our minds. It's not our thumbnail. It's not our eyebrow. It's not our shoes. It's not our back. It's not our elbow that's responsible for our creation. It's our mind. How we're using our consciousness. All right? Were your doctors telling you this when they were diagnosing you? It's because they don't understand this. This isn't their modality. This is the divine modality. This is the miracle mind. This will change your life for the rest of your life in all aspects of your life that you apply it to. This is your gift. This is your gift. If anything's terminal, it's your old mindset, all right? This is the new you, the true you. This is you stepping into that. If you're working with somebody in regards to healing, use your mind deliberately. Whenever they are doing what they're doing, if they're doing a treatment, make sure you're using your mind in a positive manner, that you are affirming your wellness already being complete. You go to the end. In visualization, you're going to the end stage of it already being done. You're not doing, a little bit better and a little bit better. You're already seeing it done. Because what you're doing with your conscious mind is you're telling consciousness, it's already done. And now consciousness just has to allow the physical the universe to conspire to create all of these expressions that will get you there. If you could look back in your life, you'd see how this is what unfolds naturally. We just never pay attention to it because we're so distracted by the logical mind. We're looking external rather than looking internal. We're so focused externally that we're actually distracted from the miracle that's happening inwardly. All right, so we're cultivating our awareness of that so that we can use it, apply it, and benefit from it. Okay. Now, every time that you become mindful of doubt, of fear, of a lack of faith, in those moments, change your mind. Deliberately use your mind to change your experience. Apply faith. Visualize wellness. Affirm joy, affirm love, affirm gratitude. And do it for a period of time. Do it for a couple minutes. Really build that mental momentum in the opposite direction. Don't allow your mind to sink your ship. Now, many people don't understand this, but Western medicine is it's a modality based on using placebos in order to validate the effectiveness of actual medications. What I mean by placebos is they'll use a sugar pill in a trial and give so many clients a sugar pill, and they'll give so many other clients a medication. And the medication actually has to come close to or outperform the sugar pill in order to be considered effective. Now understand that people given the sugar pill are still having effective results. Why? Because they believe it's the actual medication. It's not the medication that has this power over us. It's our conscious mind. This is why so many people who are given the terminal diagnosis actually validate that diagnosis and pass when they're told that they'll pass, because they agree with it in their mind. So here's another affirmation we're going to say now. We're going to approach this. Any time this idea of the terminal diagnosis comes up, meaning you've got a date that the doctor has given you, that you're going to go to paradise, we'll say. Now you start to negate and replace that, and you affirm with conviction, I will leave this vessel, I will leave this body's temple when I choose to. Because understand, everything is your choice. And when you start to give that a new thought, now all of a sudden you're changing that program, you're changing that manifestation, you're changing that creation. So don't let anybody else tell you when you're going to go. Don't accept that. You can accept that, and you will validate it. What I'm saying is, you have a choice in this. And you can choose to say, I choose when I'm going to go. And this is the new me. And I'm about to live a miracle-minded life. And when I go is up to me. From this moment on, I'm affirming wellness. I'm affirming joy. I'm affirming my betterment. I'm affirming my independence. I'm affirming my expansion. I'm affirming love. I'm affirming gratitude. I'm affirming all that serves me. Because now I'm mindful of how the mind works. So I'm going to change my pattern so that I can experience something else. If you're working with somebody else for healing, or if you don't have anybody for healing, you can contact me. I have some resources that I could offer out if I don't provide that myself. But I also provide some of these things myself, right? I do provide the guidance. I'll work with you with your consciousness, with your conscious mind. Let's get those things going if need be. I have lots of free resources online on my YouTube channel if you're inspired. You can do this all yourself if you're inspired and committed. You don't need anybody. However, if you feel that you need somebody, I can be that person. I can also refer you to other people if it makes sense to me to direct you towards them. But don't disregard the power of your mind. If you think sad thoughts all day long, can you expect to be happy at the end of the day? Not a chance. If you think happy thoughts all day long, can you expect to be sad at the end of the day? Not a chance. Thought precedes creation. We have to, if we're inspired not to experience something, we have to use our mind deliberate in a manner that creates what we want to be experiencing. We have to have our eye on the prize of what we are intending to. We have to affirm what we want to experience, not affirm what we don't want to experience. We don't affirm not having cancer. We affirm, I am well. Feel it. When you're doing these affirmations, don't just say it. Step into it as though you're an actor. Feel it in your body. Repeat it and continue to feel it. Feel the energy of what feeling well feels like. Just like if you pretended you were angry, you could cultivate that because you're familiar enough with it. Oh, I'm so angry. If you pretended, you know what I mean? You're doing it with your body. You're having this physiological response. Do this with wellness. Do this with joy. Do this with love. Do this with gratitude. Cultivate the energy. Cultivate that feeling. There's a video that probably be easy to find. Dr. Emoto's Messages in Water. What he would do is he would project a thought or say something to water and then flash freeze it and look at it under a microscope. Things, for example, like I love you. And then he'd flash freeze that water. And then he'd say I hate you to another particle of water and flash freeze it. And then he'd compare it under a microscope. And the ones that received nurturing energy like I love you and thank you, they look like a beautiful snowflake. And the ones that didn't receive the love, but actually received the negative, which will compare to the fear in when we think fearful thoughts for ourselves, what are we doing to ourselves? That particle of water looked so chaotic, so dysfunctional. It didn't have that same divine. It didn't have that same divinity within it. And you are, science likes to say we're so much water, so this is what we're doing. No. What we're doing is we're using our consciousness, like he uses conscious mind to project the energy of I love you and thank you onto something else, and it changed the energetic expression of it. That's what we're doing to our body when we think these thoughts, which is why we have to be deliberate with our thoughts. We can't be lackadaisical. We can't. Don't say any negative things about anything or anyone anymore. It's all love. It's all love. Don't think them. Don't even think them. You don't have to say affirmations out loud. If you can think it, your conscious mind is already receiving it. If your conscious mind understands it, it's got it. It's got it. So you can sit anywhere and just affirm wellness. Silently, in stillness, in meditation. I am well. I am completely healed. Visualize yourself doing what you'd be doing when you are healed. Visualize other people commenting how well you look. Those types of things, like just have all the affirmations that you can kind of think that really support things in your mind. Now, if you're working with me, we'd kind of see what are your sticking points, and we'd find remedies for those in consciousness so that you can overcome them, right? Because everybody's got different programs from their experience growing up that are sticking points for them. All right? I love you. You are loved. You are love. And when we let this ego or carnal mind or this logical mind kind of run us a little bit, we get disconnected from that love that we are, that love that nurtures us, that love that replenishes us, right? The miracle mind, the divine mind. And of course, if you're inspired to work with me in regards to regaining your wellness, you can contact me. My email is aswithinsoul@gmail.com. It's also in the description of this video. Now, if you're taking medication for this condition, notice your mind. When you take that medication, are you taking it saying, I have this illness? Are you affirming that illness? Are you taking that medication? And this is the practice. This is what I'm encouraging you to apply now. When you take that medication, affirm your wellness. Affirm that it has made you well. Don't just do this with the medication. Do this with every drink of water you have. Every drink of whatever you're drinking. Every meal that you eat. Visualize and affirm and bring the intention that that is making you well. All right? Be mindful. This is us bringing intention into our day so that we're actually getting the benefit of these things, and they're validating what we're intending to experience, rather than the mind being on default taking medication and thinking, oh, I have diabetes, I got to take this medication. All you're doing is affirming diabetes. Affirm wellness. Affirm healing. It's a different practice. It may seem subtle, but it's meaningful. And it's important. If your diagnosis includes the illness of a specific organ, this is an example, and use the idea of this to apply to your current expression of health. Say you've got something going on with your intestines. Notice how in your mind right now you almost have a negative view, a negative belief, a negative energy that you're promoting towards your intestines. We're going to change that right now. Now with the miracle mind, with this new deliberate thought, we envision it completely healed all the time. Only envision the cells of this intestine receiving and acknowledging that you are now sending it love, and now it's responding with wellness. It's getting in alignment. It's moving. It's healing. Visualize it completely healed. It's shining with divinity. The energy has been restored. It's now in alignment with love, with empowerment, with wholeness. Before, your thoughts were promoting its illness by thinking of it as ill. We can't do that. That's affirming the illness. We have to affirm the wellness. We have to see it as well. We have to affect it with our conscious mind, with the miracle mind. Right? What's important that I didn't mention yet is in the Bible, whenever you see Jesus healing people, he always asks them, do you believe? What he's asking them is, does your conscious mind agree that this can be done? And when they say yes, it is done. All right, so that's what we have to do. If we're intending to influence healing, we have to align our conscious mind with these thoughts of wellness. We can't think of our body as ill and manifest health. We're actually manifesting illness. We're actually affirming illness by looking at it in that way. Doesn't this teach you to look at the whole world differently? We can't look at anybody with the woe is me energy anymore because we're projecting. It's like I have a video called Reverse Prayers where we're actually sending negative energy to people unknowingly. Your job is to look at everything with love, as whole, as well. And that's what you affirm. Then that's the energy you project. It teaches you how to pray differently. It teaches you how to pray more effectively so that you're actually affecting the betterment of that being. It's also important to understand that this mindset work can be used in conjunction with all other types of complementary medicine and treatments. In fact, the idea is it will actually help make them more effective, because when our mind isn't used deliberately in the same manner of healing consistently, we're actually kind of putting the brakes on, and we're affecting those other treatments in a negative manner. We're actually kind of resisting the wellness that they would be promoting otherwise, because mentally we're not letting it in. It's like if somebody tells you a joke and you resist laughing, you don't get to experience the humor and the joy of it, right? Whether or not that analogy sits with you, as long as you receive the understanding of it, right? So, just in case you are concerned, these types of practices with the mind applications are usable with any other type of treatment. It's also important to every day have something that influences your mind in this positive manner, whether it's listening to a YouTube video or a podcast or reading the Bible. Well, I would say something that's really specific about getting your mind right and reminding you of your abilities, reminding you of the source that gives you these abilities, right? Do that every single day. You want that positive influence, because otherwise we begin to almost forget it to the extent that many people who are listening to this right now have completely forgotten it. So we want that constant reminder of our power, of our abilities, right? So listen to something every single day. Listen to it a lot if you can, because you want to create that mental momentum in these positive directions. I have lots of these types of videos on my channel. Myrtle Fillmore, Myrtle Fillmore, Fillmore, has videos on YouTube. Healing Letters would probably be a great one to listen to. It's also important to every day have something that influences your mind in this positive manner, whether it's listening to a YouTube video or a podcast or reading the Bible. Well, I would say something that's really specific about getting your mind right and reminding you of your abilities, reminding you of the source that gives you these abilities, right? Do that every single day. You want that positive influence, because otherwise we begin to almost forget it to the extent that many people who are listening to this right now have completely forgotten it. So we want that constant reminder of our power, of our abilities, right? So listen to something every single day. Listen to it a lot if you can, because you want to create that mental momentum in these positive directions. I have lots of these types of videos on my channel. Myrtle Fillmore, Myrtle Fillmore, Fillmore, has videos on YouTube. Healing Letters would probably be a great one to listen to. So this was a longer episode than traditional, but I wanted to be a little bit more thorough in case this is the only video somebody sees of mine that's going through this scenario. I wanted to help them understand deeper. I wanted to give them the opportunity. I didn't want it to be so surface level. So you do have this. You do have the ability. You've got this. Commit your mind to it. You have got this, my friend. Easy peasy, Spirit says. So you've got this. Be light. Do things that bring joy into your life. Don't do things that shut you down. Don't do things that don't do things that contribute to you pulling back and putting the brakes on and being resistant. Do things that light you up. Be joy. Be love. be levity, all these types of things. You've got this, you've got this, you've got this. You can do this. Don't let your mind tell you otherwise, because that's the piece that we have to overcome. All right? Bless you, my friend. We'll talk soon.